pandemic. We got to break these barriers. Are you ready? So many of you are leading either churches, organizations, people, or maybe you're just here just leading yourself. But whatever it is, whatever you came to do, this is the place to live. If you came here for some fluff, if you came here to hear some, I don't know what you came here. If you came to hear something that wasn't the truth or something that you, some magical answers that was going to make you feel good, then maybe this isn't the workshop for you. Because in this workshop, we're going to be talking about your mindset, because we can't talk about anything until we talk about those limited beliefs, because it starts with you. We can't talk about anything until we disrupt the mindset, till we disrupt what you already know, till we disrupt your beliefs about yourself, about your organization, about what other people are thinking, about what the world is doing, about what these people are saying. I'm telling you that I'm a disruptor. I disrupt limited beliefs. And those disruptions lead to transformation. So if you're here to be transformed, then dig in, sit down, get ready, and let's roll. But this is what I need for you to do. No sitting here just watching and like, I'm taking breaks and eating and whatnot. I'm going to need you to get a piece of paper, get ready to write, use your camera, take some pictures, do whatever you can. Now, I'm not going to PowerPoint you to death, because that ain't what I do. I'm going to put a little something up there so you can see and just help to guide the conversation. But the real deal is I'm just going to give you those nuggets. I'm going to tell you what it is that I've learned. I'm going to share with you the tips and the tricks and the things I've read. And I'm on that. Folks, if you're not reading, if you're not educating yourself, if you're not being coached, if you're not joining groups, if you're not a constant or a lifetime learner. My grandmama used to say, if you're not growing, right? And you've heard it by other leaders. If you're not growing, then you're dying. At my mama's, God rest my mama's soul, at her funeral, I remember it wasn't funny then, but we think back on it now. The pastor at the time, Reverend Wright, he said, I die daily. And we were like, what is it? I die, right? But in the good book, my favorite book, it talks about from the time you're born, right? From the time that we're born, our cells, although they regenerate themselves, we all have a final day, right? So from the time you're born, technically, you're preparing to to go on to glory. So if you're not growing your business, if you're not growing yourself, if you're not developing yourself, then those 3 billion, say 3 billion, the 3 billion people that are employed in the world, you may be one of them, you may work for one of them, you may be an employer or an employee, but there's 3 billion people in the world. Out of the 3 billion, say B with the B, say billion, put B in the chat. 3 billion people in this world, over the globe. They say 81% of those people live in countries that were affected by the pandemic. I want to say, they say 60 some of those people are self-employed or entrepreneurs, all of which are affected by the pandemic. And they say affected, either they have recommendations or required to shut down. How is that affecting you? How is that affecting your employees? So we're going to jump in here. I'm going to talk to you about those things. And once we wrap it up, I'm going to wrap that thing up with a bow. And you only have one job to do. Take the information. Don't be the people that come to an event. Don't be the person that comes to a workshop. You come and you learn all this good stuff. You fired up. You go home, ready to go. You done bought all the books. You done bought all the CDs. You done bought whatever. Now, I might have dated myself with the CDs, but you bought all the downloads. And then they're sitting on a shelf. And then you don't change anything. And you've heard it said by many people, different kinds of ways, but a changed mind and a changed action changes your circumstances. But without any of those, if one of those portions, those parts are not in there, nothing happens. Nothing happens till you move your feet. So I'm going to share my screen so that you all can, I want to show you a presentation here. What I'm, So this is what happened. You know, this is technology, right? And oh, there we go. So we already know we're breaking barriers to success. And when I say breaking barriers to success, I'm talking about disrupting. I'm talking about a mindset. I've already told you, I'm talking to you about what is it? I want you to think about barriers. When you think about a barrier, and I mean, you have to, this is something you have to do in your personal life, your professional life. If you don't do these things, you will continue to run up against these things that are stopping you from moving forward. What is a barrier? What are your barriers? Ask yourself, what do you believe about something? Why do you hold that belief? Where did it come from? How would your life, your business, how would your organization change if you didn't believe that? Or if you believe differently? And what do you need to do to change it? You have to write, this is some deep things. When I say deep, it's like really, like, why do you believe that? We all have family things that we've learned, like, through the family, that there was like something that we heard I call them the ancestors or the elders saying that was truth. It was truth. And you believed it until you learned differently. Until you learned that was a belief, that was a rumor, that was something, old wives' tale. And it felt true because it was said by somebody that you honored and you trusted, but it was not based on reality or fact. So we're going to be talking about reality and fact. It's from today forward, I need you to run everything through the filter of reality. Where did I learn that? Because what keeps us from growing are barriers. And before we can even move on to leading somebody else, we first got to learn how to lead ourselves. I know you said, come on, Stephanie, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Well, listen, here's the deal. Just because someone has a title and just because someone is responsible for other people doesn't make them necessarily qualified or most effective or even efficient at leading other people. Leaders versus managing. Remember? People, you would lead people, we manage things. But quite frankly, sometimes we have to manage people and negotiate, navigate those waters. So let's jump on into it. I had to put the pivot in. Yes, pivoting is not the end of the disruption process, but the beginning of the next leg of your journey. Now, that would be the only screen I'm going to read because I don't like it when people read screens. That's a thing. That's for me. It's about me. It's not about you. But the reason I love this, one, I live in Maryland, the last southern states, the last southern state. And this old country road reminds me of an area called Clarksville, Maryland, where my mom grew up and where my grandmother and most of my family lived. And when we were growing up, I remember that when we used to go down, we say go down to the country. We used to go down to this place. We used to walk down a lane that looked just like this to get to our destination. So in order to get to grandmama's house, we had to, as we call it, mama, to get to mama's house, we had to walk through a lane like this. And to me, sometimes it was some of the scariest things for me because although I'm still, according to my husband, I'm country. I lived in the suburbs of our area, and this part of town was a little different to me. So this is pivoting. Are you looking at it? Pivoting is not the end of the disruption process. I love it because it talks about disruption. I love it because in order to pivot, in order to move, you got to first break something up. You got to disrupt something. So let's jump on in. 3 billion. We didn't talked about this. 3 billion. Look at the number. Now look, y'all, I know on paper somebody can write it down, but 3 billion is a big number to me. 3 billion with a B. Put B in the chat. We're talking about the three. Put the three in the big. You know, I have these little things. My claps and my hearts and my, here's the deal. My 100. Can I just get 1 billion? But imagine 3 billion people being affected by a pandemic. Now, when the pandemic hit, because I need you all to walk with me on this journey. I don't know where you were, and if you were affected by this pandemic, I want you to put in there, yes, that's me. When I say in there, I mean in the chat, because I need some participation. It feels good when I feel the people. If that's you, put in the chat, that's me. Some people lost their job. Some people were furloughed with the possibility of being able to come back to work. Some people were asked to telework. For some people, that was a happy thing. Some people were not afforded the ability to telework. They had to show up. Your public safety professionals, your nurses, your doctors, firemen, policemen, all those people. There was no options. Your people that worked at grocery stores, the Amazon people. Y'all know y'all was ordering from Amazon, and I know you broke, so was I. Come on, that's a whole nother talk show. But listen, I'm talking all those people that continue to make the world go round while if you were fortunate enough, if you were part of that 3 billion that were affected, and even those that had to show up at work, their daycare shut down. Even those that had to show up at work, their spouse or their whomever may not have had a job. Think about, we said 3 billion. So I want you to process that number, because I want you to really think about it's because some people it's a small thing. They're thinking on a small scale. But as a leader, I need you to think big. I need you to think bigger. I need you to think differently. So while you're thinking about you're changing the mindset. I need you to think big. I need you to think about what has changed in the life of the people that work for you. I need you to think bigger, or as the folks that I work with. I have a person who's elevated. He's quite, the person I work directly for, he's quite elevated in where I work, right? But he doesn't like you to say, I work for you. He says, I work with you. Do you all know the words matter? Language matters, communication matters. Do you realize that most organizations and leaders do not fail because they are just great and somebody was hating on them? You know how we hear that hater stuff. But oftentimes they fail because of lack of communication, lack of change, being able to pivot, didn't handle change well, managing resources, managing people, just lack the ability to engage. This is a time that so much is going to change for you that I just need you to imagine. Imagine if you are the employee, you're in the 3 billion, and you are the employee that's been home. Originally, you were a teleworker. I mean, you weren't a teleworker, but you became a teleworker at that same time schools closed, and you're a parent. And your one child or your children are home. And for reasons that only you know, schools are getting ready to open back up in the fall, but you've said, you know what? It has worked. My child is excelling. I'm doing much better. My health is better. The health of my family. I'm in better relationships with my spouse or whatever it is. But you got an email, because it's always the email that says, we're coming back to work. Everybody 100% back in the office. September 1, August 1st, July 1, pick one of those dates. Employers, hear me. Leaders, hear me. Supervisors, hear me. Managers, hear me. CFOs, hear me. CEOs, whomever in the C-suite, hear me well. During the pandemic, as I told you guys, if you heard me for my keynote, as George Fraser says, I have an earned income. I've earned income. I have a job. I have a job, but I also have a thriving business that launched during the pandemic. Fully launched. See, you stop playing when you have options, you stop playing with it. But guess what? Some of you have done it. Some of your employers and some of your employees have also done it. So see, now they have options. Some of the options at first were come to work, get promoted, maybe, come from the bottom office to the corner office. Now the option can be stay in my own office, be my own boss, and raise my own kids at home. What are you going to do? We're still talking about those 3 billion. Okay, so I put this here because this is what I've learned. Everybody tired of hearing about the pivot. The pivot, the pivot, the pivot, the pivot. Now, I know some of y'all don't say the word shut up because, mama said don't say shut up. Y'all saying be quiet. Okay, listen. For my people to saying be quiet, it's okay. I received that. It's just a graphic. Don't be sending me no emails talking about you don't say shut up. But I mean, listen, the real story here is about the pivot. I just put this here because I want you all to know that I got to say pivot. And it is a pivot because what is a pivot? A pivot is a slight turn. A pivot is a turn. But in this case, for some people, it is a complete 360, right? You are turning completely around. Your whole world is, it's more, it's almost like a slam door. And now you're trying to find your way, shake a door to get back in there. What are we going to do? What are you going to do when you come to the pivot? What are you going to do? So this is where I'm going to get you to some things that you need to do, but I need you to understand how we got there. We're talking about people that are breaking down barriers, how we're going to break down barriers to us leading through and after the pandemic. Because quite frankly, are we really out of the pandemic? No, because we're still wearing masks here in Maryland. People are still trying to get vaccinated. People are fighting on airplanes, y'all. People fighting on airplanes. We got a whole lot of shenanigans going on. But here's the deal. We're not just talking about leading on our jobs. We're talking about leading our lives, leading our families. We're talking about leading ourselves. Starts with you. Back again. Mindset. I want you to think about all the things you can do and all the tips and all the things we talk about, the steps that we're going to talk about, even for your company. I want you to look at them not just for the company, but also for you, for your family. For how are you going to navigate that? All right. So I used this picture of this woman because I felt like that's where we all were. Now she has a mask on, look out the window now. I know you, for the folks that are the detail-oriented people, you're thinking, why does she have a mask on? But I want you to think about there are people that you're going to be working with, leaders, that really truly have not been out of the house. I mean, like, I'm very serious. I'm going to use an example, and she's given me permission. One of my dear cousins, her name is Andrea. And Andrea literally and she is a nurse, so she had to come out. But up until last month or so-ish, no one, and I mean no one, was coming in her house. Because of what she saw on the daily at work as in relation to this pandemic. To date, no one is coming in her home if they have not been vaccinated. And she asks, So for my HR professional people, you already know the challenge is going to be real, because for some people, you all get ready for this. For some people, when they walk in, for some businesses here in Maryland, anyway, I can speak of Maryland because I know about Maryland. For some people, when they walk in, it's going to be people taking your temperatures. You may have to tell them if you've been vaccinated. There may be people that say, I'm not coming back to work. I'm not coming in that office if everyone hasn't been vaccinated. You may have businesses that say that if everybody's not vaccinated, you can't come back in the building. You may have older adults that say, for my health reasons, I can't come back in the building, not knowing if everybody I come in contact with is vaccinated. Listen, you are going to have people that are like, okay, wait a minute. When we go in for these meetings, because we like to have meetings, rooms full of people, the table, everybody squeezed up in there. They may say, listen, are we following CDC guidelines? Are we still going to be 6 feet apart? I mean, are you prepared as a leader to not fall on fall back to what you're accustomed to? And that is, well, listen, the pandemic is over. News flash. We're not technically post-pandemic yet. And without getting into a bunch of health stuff, because you all can do that and watch the news and look it up for yourself. I don't want to get there, but I want to tell you that right now, as it stands, people are still dying, right? So what does a leader need to do? A leader needs to be in a place where they can lead the folks. Because here's the deal. Leaders lead. Bob Proctor says that in order to be a great leader, you must first be a phenomenal follower. So I want you leaders to think about, as you think about this pandemic, and I'm giving you this graphic because I want you to think about, you're thinking about the pandemic right now. Look around, talk to your friends and family. Just listen to their conversations. Listen to those people that you don't, just kind of overhear, right? Listen to what they're saying about what's going on at their jobs. Listen to the defiance they're saying, I'm not doing that. If you look at your HR, talk to your HR professionals. If you're not the HR professionals, think about out of that 3 billion individuals, how many of them are if they were your employees, if all 3 billion of them did not show back up for work, how in trouble would you be? Many of you are working with, I don't know, well, in my office, there are a lot of women. There are a lot of men. The men have a lot of them have families that they're taking care of. How many of you have people that have families and they're taking care of their elderly parent? How many of them fall in that also may have businesses and they can leave your place of business? How many of them you're gonna end up being like some of the folks that can't pivot? In your community, think about the small businesses in your community that have closed down. You got one in mind? I use the example of the cookie place, my favorite place. They call it the Big Cookie at the Columbia Mall. They just could not wrap their heads around the pivot. Where on the other hand, I watch folks, everybody from your chain, people from Fridays to, little restaurants, they figured it out. They were like, wait a minute. Look at your local grocery stores. Everybody is now delivering food. You can get McDonald's delivered. What? McDonald's said, don't sleep on us. While the rest of you all are trying to figure it out, they are rotating. You go to listen, I went to McDonald's, was traveling, and I went to Mickey D's. We call it Mickey D's. Went in Mickey D's, and they have the little floor thing. You know, you stand 6 feet apart, let you know, it's a little sign, put your little feet down there. You stand here. You follow the sign. They had the little the plastic dividing things up. You know how you used to go and kind of, what is it called? Order your food on a machine. Oh, no, we're not going to touch that because that's not COVID safe. They have all of the tables shut down. Now, listen, is McDonald's losing money? McDonald's losing money? Heck to the no. McDonald's is for some of them, they happy as I don't know, because now you don't have any safety issues with people in the seated area because there's nobody allowed to sit there. Or they have some of the area closed off. So some of them, they're using fewer employees. But it didn't happen overnight. They had to adjust, and this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. Now, let's go on back. Let's wind it on back. I talked about this during the keynote, but I want to bring this in. I need you to understand that you're going to have to poll your people. You're going to have to do something different. If you do what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. If your business wasn't really the bomb.com, and I know I dated myself when I said that. Listen, I want you to write in there. If you work at a place and you are teleworking right now, and they're already talking about bringing you back in to work, but you're not feeling it, put in the chat, number 1. If you are working somewhere, and if the option to work or telework, or there was some options, it would make for a better place to work, put number 2. If you are someone who is working, but based on what you are hearing from leadership, and you're not feeling it, it doesn't feel safe for you or your family, and you are considering and you're talking strongly with your family about leaving that place of employment, then put a number 3. I want you all to look at the 1s, 2s, and 3s and just in the box to see, in the chat to see where they are and see where people are. And if you are an employer, a leader, supervisor, a manager, CEO, a CFO, anybody in the C-suite, I need you to look at those things, because this is indicative of what some of the people who work with and for you are thinking. How do you gauge this? How do you stay on top of it? How do you navigate these waters? You navigate these waters by talking to your people about the truth. Tell them where we are, and then work with them to get to where you want to go. You know, this is a time for you to use your empathy. Not sympathy, empathy. I need you to put yourself in their shoes. Some people have not affected them at all. I listened to a talk the other day, and it was talking about the fact that during the Great Depression, unbeknownst to a lot of people, you know, when we think about the Great Depression, you think about, man, it was a tough time in the world, right? It was a tough time for this country. It was a time in the United States, you know, people were, it was tough, right? It was a tough time. People were hungry, and all kinds of, the history books show it was a very tough time for individuals, for families. But the reality is, during that same time period, there were some people who became very wealthy. And what does that mean? That means that during this time period, you're either going to be growing or dying or failing. And it's your job, because in this economy and this world, there's going to be, for every business, there's somebody else that could do it just as well or better. So what are you going to do to set yourself apart? And this is where your attitude determines your altitude. Take a picture, understand, look, and I love this picture because I'm thinking about growth, right? You know, everybody wants to be the butterfly, but nobody wants to be the caterpillar. I love the analogy of the butterfly. I actually love the analogy of the bumblebee and so many other things, but the butterfly, because the butterfly first crawls before it walks, right? It crawls before it flies. The butterfly has to go through a disruption. The butterfly has to go through a process, and it comes out better than it went in. If you're unsure of what to do next, I need you at this point. Listen, you have people coming back, and you may not have everybody come back that left out. Some of your top performers are the ones you believe. Yeah, air quotes, y'all, air quotes. You believe to be your top performers may be gone, but you may have had the person that was sitting in the corner over there at the front desk. You didn't even know that person was full of skills because you never gave them an opportunity, because you never knew they had that skill set. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where assessments come in. I will tell you that I as I told you earlier, I work for one of the best gentlemen bosses I've ever had. And as I told everyone doing my keynote, one of the first things that had to be done, the first thing he told me how to do was do an assessment. I was like, oh, what? I mean, it was a strength finder. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm doing it. And it was, you know what, strength finders, you got to move fast. But I will tell you, when I looked at my results, it was so on par with exactly who I am and my strengths. And so I was when I was hired specifically based on my strengths in a role that is made, was made for me, and I thrive in it. And it's most likely one of the reasons why I stay at that earned income job in lieu of, because, I love it. I love it just as much as I love my own business. What are you doing to make sure that your employees love what they're doing? Your attitude determines your altitude. Is your attitude about the next steps, where we're just going to do what we've been doing? Is your attitude about the next step something different? Well, let me make a couple of suggestions. How about the first thing that you're going to do is literally, even for those people that have already been there, particularly those people that are your leaders that have to supervise other people, because we need them to be on board. You all to be on the same page. Think about a team. And here's the deal. If there's a team of people that are working, if there's one person that is not buying into the project, it will not work. If you don't believe that the project, if you can't see it unfolding the way you all as a team has envisioned it to happen, it won't happen. I don't usually care if you use a whiteboard or old-fashioned chalkboard, or if everybody is all digitized and y'all use computers, but you have got to get the team on the same page so that you can grow. When I say meet a need so you can change your mind. What is meeting a need? Your employees that are coming in. Remember when I talked about the daycare centers. It may be you need to give them options. I need you to go back, take the rule book, throw it out the window. The rule book is gone. The rule book as you know it is gone. We're not going to do the old rule book. It's a new world. It's 2021. We're going into 2022 soon. You got to have a different mindset, because if your mindset is 2020 or even 2009, you have already lost the battle. You've already lost the battle, so therefore you can't win the war. You need to change your mind You need to meet a need. Meet the need. So if I was a mother, if I was a father, I was a parent or whatever, meet a need. Someone's need just might be, listen, I have a cubicle that's right next to somebody else, and I am definitely afraid that I'm going to catch COVID. I haven't gotten vaccinated, or they haven't gotten back, whatever it is. Work out the logistics, but also meet people where they are. What ifs? We talked about the what ifs. I mean, I love this what ifs. I can't stop it with the what ifs, but put it up on the board, and I want you to start from here. In your own life, I want you to practice it tonight. Literally, go in a room, go with your family, go with a friend, go somewhere, go to work tomorrow, go there today, and say, listen, this is the issue that we need to address. This is the thing that we want to address. But when I want us to come up with ideas, it's like a brainstorming, but except for the sentence has to start with what if I could, or what if we could, or what if. It always has to be what if we could, right? You can't be I can't, no can'ts don't live in this world. But what if we could, boom, 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 boom. And I mean, just throw them at, just throw everything at it. And you're not even going to believe the energy that what if is going to bring into the room. Throw the what ifs at it. Throw the what ifs at it in a major way. I'm going to tell you that if you are throwing what ifs out there, if what ifs beat what if I could beats what if I can't every day and twice on Sunday. What if I could puts the pow, 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 uppercut, jab, 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 cross on the what if I can't. So I'm telling you, if you'll do anything else I'm asking you to do, I double dare you, as we used to say when I was a kid, double dare you to try the what if we could. And give everybody in the room an opportunity to play their role in that. Because the problem is oftentimes as leaders, we're not leading. We're so busy telling everybody what to do. It's so much. I could go on this subject for hours, but I want you to know this here. You have to lead the people they want to follow. But if you ain't leading them nowhere, you're going to lose them. So what have we talked about? We talked about your attitude determines your altitude. We talking about you got to meet a need to change your mind. And when I talk about changing those minds, that's to talk about the change in the minds of the people that come back. Why would they want to come back? Why would the people that can go, why would they want to come back to your company versus going to somebody else's company? Why would they want to come back in the building versus stay home with their family? Why would they want to continue to come outside their homes if they haven't come out this whole time? Why would they want to believe in the mission if the mission is not clear? Why would your leaders want to come back? Because remember, leaders create other leaders, right? Remember, you have a couple of things you have to do. And I say have to because if you can choose not to. If you don't do it, maybe something happened, maybe nothing will happen. But what will happen is as I gave you the analogy in the keynote, the CFO said to the CEO, what if we develop our employees, give them development, and then they leave us? And the CEO said, what if we don't and they stay? I'm telling you, you win. It's a win when you grow your people. It's a win when you grow yourself. And every company, every great company that's done anything in this wonderful in this world, they have rebranded themselves. We always use the example of, about branding. It's about branding, right? I hate to say it, but Coca-Cola, you see, Coca-Cola is always, I don't care where you go, Coke is Coke. I went to Mexico and it's a cola, but I was like, let me get a Coke. I'm telling you, your organization and you could be, if you are someone who's on the bottom here, you've been a manager, you've been a manager. Here's your time to shine. Here's your time to shine, because the person that the leader or the manager or the CEO or whomever is or above you or you report to, they may not be there in that space because they're not here in this training. But you are. But it starts with your attitude. Get books. Y'all I got a good book. I'm gonna read over because it's a couple books that I'm gonna tell you now. Listen, I love to read, and I believe that leaders read, leaders grow, leaders create other leaders. I also believe that those that don't grow and those that don't lead and those that don't meet their dreams. Les Brown says, as I told you all, that many people are living their fears. And this is why they're not living their dreams, right? So they're not living their dreams because they're living their fears. And I'm going to tell you that's happened because many of them they can't see beyond this place here because they don't know anything. You can't expand your world or expand your knowledge if you don't have things in. I used to say, junk in, junk out. Then I'll tell her, Les Brown said, nope, junk in, junk stay. So be careful what you put in and be careful what you're giving out. So I'm going to tell you, I can't wait. I'm going to get me a book called Leadership Dynamics, The Disciplines, right? Oh, I'm going to get this. Listen, Leadership Dynamics. Do you lead? Are you a true leader? Are you setting the example? Are you being the example? And are you making a difference in the world that you're in? Because we all have an opportunity to make a difference. I want to leave you with a quote, and I love this quote by a prophet that says that change is inevitable, but personal development is a choice. I want you to choose today. Choose your attitude that determines your altitude. I want you to go get some books. Feed your mind, look at your company, look at what you're doing right now and see how you can do it differently. I'm talking just throw the rule books out and change everything. I promise you, and I hate to make promises, but I'm going to tell you it works because I've done it. If you've never reinvented yourself, it's time to do it. Look at other people. Just look at other people. Research it. Research it your friend. Meet a need and change your mind. Start with your own. And what if beliefs beat what if I can't? Right? So what if I messed my own stuff up? So what if we could beat what if we can't? I know y'all heard grandmama say, take the can't out your doggone vocabulary. I'm telling you to remove the bad mojo. My name is Stephanie Wall. They call me Speaker Stephanie everywhere. I disrupt. I love saying it. I disrupt limited beliefs. And I'm asking you to disrupt limited belief, disrupt the playbook, disrupt the things that people say can't be done, disrupt everything that was already done, disrupt those things that are keeping you from growing, disrupt those things that are keeping your employees or the people you serve, the people you work with, the people at your organization, the people, your congregants, your church members, your family members. If it's keeping you or anybody else from reaching their desired goal, because they say that a dream is a goal. A goal is a dream until you take an action. So we're operating in goals right now. So thank you for your time and attention. Again, I'm Stephanie Wall everywhere. They like to say Stephanie Wall, WALLWL. I thank you for your time and attention. You've been amazing. I hope you enjoy this event and take everything that you learn. Don't just put it in the box. Do something with it. Don't waste time, because time is not yours to waste. Peace and blessings. Have a great event.
The only way that you can reach those goals is if you have a vision to work towards, a vision that those goals are attached to. I would like to offer you a free course on the power of personal vision so that you can learn how to reach the goals that you have for yourself, for your career, for your ministry, for all the different areas of your life. Now, just go to powerofpersonalvision.com, and sign up for my free course on the power of personal vision. Again, that site is thepowerofpersonalvision.com. Sign up for that free site so you can learn free course so that you can learn how to move forward with